Hi folks, welcome to another edition of An Hour with Bob. And today I got a guy I should have got here a long time ago. I've been trying to get him for a long time. And it's Big John. How you doing? Look at this, Rhode Island Monthly.
What a great magazine.
John Palumbo from Rhode Island Monthly. Now, are you the editor-in-chief?
No, I'm the publisher. So
You're the publisher.
I own it. I run the business. I've been with the magazine now. This will be 28 years.
Come on.
No.
28 years.
28 years, yeah. I took it over in late 90s, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, how long had it been running before you?
First issue was in 1988. It was founded by two entrepreneurs, Dan Kaplan and Conrad Schultz. And that's when city and regional magazines were starting to take off across the country. So they opted to take one and start one here in Rhode Island.
Were they from here? Were they from Rhode Island?
Well, in and out. Dan had been working in the publishing business up in Worcester.
Right.
He was working on I believe it was the Worcester Business Journal. And then they collaborated and they got some seed money and they started it. And so they launched it in the May issue of 1988. And what they did was brilliant. They had the male and female anchors of each of the television stations on the cover. So it was Walter Cryan, Dave Lehman, and Doug White. And the women were Janice Glynn.
Karen Adams?
No, it
Before
was
her?
Kathy Ray.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And it was Ann Conway. And in fact, we have that cover.
Ann Conway was 6. Kathy Ray was 10, right?
It was 10, correct.
Who was on 12?
It was Janice Glynn.
Oh, all right, yeah.
At the time. Those were all at the time.
Right, right.
She didn't have the longevity of a Karen Adams or anybody like that.
No, she didn't.
But they did that because that was really unheard of. And of course, what they got was the media buzz because all the television people were talking
about it.
They were on the cover of the magazine.
Right, it's like free advertising.
So it was a very smart way to start
Very smart, very smart.
And then they did some other things, like they had a partnership with RI-PBS Channel 36, where if you were a member, you got a free copy of the magazine, so they were able to grow their circulation. Then I think it was a year and a half later, they sold it. So they started it, were successful. They sold it to the company that owned Connecticut Magazine. It was an investment banking company. Then in 1991, we all know that Governor Sondland closed the credit unions because we had that major
I remember
crash.
that.
Okay, we all do.
And
so in 91, when the credit unions closed and the economy was crashing in Rhode Island, they went back to the Connecticut company and bought it back from them at less than what they sold it for.
Wow.
So they're pretty smart.
Smart guys, huh?
Yeah. Then they ran it for a couple more years. Then it was sold to the Journal, and that's when I came in and took it over in the beginning.
Wow. Now it's totally owned by
Me.
you.
Yes.
That was even smarter.
Now, yes, but you know, in 2008, 2009, during the other financial crisis, that's when I bought it.
That bad lean years.
Lean years, yeah.
Yeah, that was the housing crisis.
It was the mortgage crisis, the housing crisis, the economy was tanking, there was no credit. When you have a regional magazine that talks about dining out and buying luxury cars and furniture and things of that nature.
It's not number one.
Not number one on anyone's list.
No.
So it was some lean times in the beginning, but we've gotten through it all. We got through the pandemic, and here we are. We're starting our 37th year will be next year.
That's remarkable.
Yeah.
That's remarkable.
Yeah, and we are the largest locally owned print publication in the state.
It's a nice publication, too. And being a photographer, I do appreciate all the photographs and stuff you have in this magazine, all the ads, even though some people don't like ads, but just the artistic stuff, just
all the research shows you with any magazine research that the photography and the design are as important to the subscriber as other stories.
Right,
because you can have great stories, and if they hate the pictures, they're not going to buy it.
You're not seeing stuff like this,
Right.
This is nice. This is nice. To me, I
food shots
like
are people shots,
See, I look at stuff like that.
Right. It's got to look appetizing.
Exactly. I look at the food, each individual item on this page. I would look at.
Well, I'm fortunate. The magazine's been around for, as I say, 36 years. my creative director,
Oh,
who
here you
I
go.
hired,
Here you go.
yeah, she's been around for 33 of the 36 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
She's
that's
very
why it's
talented.
consistent. That's
Yeah.
why it's consistent.
Very talented. Yeah, I mean, you're going to make that look good. And
That's almost like a centerfold in another kind of a magazine. It is. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a beautiful picture.
well, we call those spreads, and yes, it's a great way to open it up. And there's a whole science to this. You make a magazine welcoming. Like when you open a magazine, even a regular issue of Rhode Island Monthly,
Right.
you'll open it up and you'll have what they call the front of the book. And it might be the society page, it might be the calendar, it'll be the letters to the editor, all
Right.
little bits and pieces. And then you get into the main feature, which is where you're at right now.
Right? And that's a whole story about food.
Well, it's all a story
or
about all
restaurants?
the winners. So the way
Oh.
the Best of Rhode Island works is during the month of April, we put a ballot up, and we encourage everyone, you don't have, hopefully you're a reader of the magazine, we encourage everyone to vote for their favorite
Yep.
restaurant, spa, you name it.
Right.
It's all done regionally because, as we all know in Rhode Island, if you live in Blackstone Valley,
Right.
you have certain favorites if you live in South County. So there's the readers poll, and then our editors all year long, when they discover something, they put it into a file. They may write about it, but they'll put it into a file and say, this is something we should consider for Best of Rhode Island.
Right.
So that's starting right now for next year. And what will happen is when we get into producing the magazine, they'll go back and they'll actually visit the place. Nothing gets in the magazine without them actually
Going
making an
there.
in-person visit. You can't phone it in. You have to make an in-person visit. They go anonymously. No one knows that anyone's coming.
Right. They eat.
And if it's, like the Irregardless here, which is the biscuit company, and it's great, then they make the cut. And it changes every year. Every year we change the categories. So you've been working in the media market for as long as I have. You remember there was a time when there was a lot of traffic reporters in the state. We just talked about the Washington Bridge before
Right, yeah,
we
yeah,
went on
yeah.
air. A lot of traffic reporters in the air, helicopters, everything. So that used to be a big category. Then nobody had them anymore.
Yes.
So we eliminated the category. Guess what? Now, due to satellite technology, all the cameras,
Yep.
now all the television stations have traffic reporters.
Yes.
So we brought it back. So we don't keep it static. Every year we sit down and we say, does this really make sense? Or can we word this a different way? Or if something doesn't get a lot of votes, then we'll just eliminate it completely.
Of course. Well, there's no
Yeah.
interest then if nobody.
No interest, and it's got to have a legitimate, significant amount of votes to get to get an award, and then to get the plaque. Which
Can
is
I,
what
can
they
I, can I push for a category?
Yeah, sure. Push for a category.
The best variety show
Best
host?
variety show host. I'm sure you. I'm so surprised.
There's not too many of us.
Yeah.
There's not too many of us. But I've been doing it for 32 years.
30. I know. I said it's a full Rhode Island.
Yeah, it's a fun thing to do.
It
And I
is a
do it
fun
for
thing
the
to
fun.
do.
People think, I don't even get paid. People think I get paid.
It's Bob. I think it's the state that we live in. I mean, I have had a long, varied career with doing various things, and the ability to impact a small state and connect the dots with people. Before we went on the air, we were sharing stories about people we mutually know, and that's the beauty of this state. I've worked
Right.
here my whole career, and I was born here. I went to school here.
Where were you born?
I was born in Barrington.
Oh,
I was born in a Maple Avenue neighborhood of Barrington. That was an Italian enclave. My grandfather,
yeah, because that
Onorato.
you don't fit the Barrington.
No, I don't. Yeah, I know.
Italians,
No.
you don't fit.
There was actually a major
conclave of Italians.
Maple. It's called Maple Avenue.
Oh, I
And-
know that street.
Okay, so Maple Avenue.
That's where excuse me, that's where they have I don't know if it's there anymore. They used to sell fireplace inserts and stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. In fact, that was down across the street from the Suriani family owned it at one point. But so what
So
happened?
you lived over there in that area?
My grandfather came over. He followed his brother. There was a whole group of people coming from a community. It was right between Naples and Rome called Pastina. like the pasta. They came over, and they all came over to work in the Barrington Brickyard.
There you go.
That's what Brickyard Pond is. It was the brickyard.
Right.
So they all had jobs. People settled here. So it was all people from that particular area of Italy. And
right.
So the brickyard owners were very smart because they had the workers. They had people continuing to come. So what did they do? They donated all the bricks to build the elementary school, which is Maple Avenue Elementary School.
Oh, wow.
Then they donated all the bricks to build
houses?
The Catholic Church, Holy Angels Church.
Go. There you go.
Which was an old brick church.
Yep.
So they had the church, they had the school, and they had the workers. Right. And that continued until the pond finally, the springs were just made it a pond as opposed to a brickyard. So that's how I came from Barrington. It was interesting growing up in that town, and I have a lot of fond memories. There's a whole group of us that still get together.
Now, you say you were born in that town.
I was born and lying in hospital.
Oh,
in
okay,
Providence.
because I bust the governor up. I
Yeah.
used to work for the governor. I bust him up every once in a while because he's from Cumberland.
Right.
I was born in Cumberland.
You were born.
He wasn't.
Yeah.
He wasn't. He was born in the Lion Inn Hospital, just like you.
I was born in the Lion Inn
I was
Hospital.
born on 2080 Street in Cumberland.
Okay.
In a second floor, in a bedroom. Well, it was a single-family house, but
Right.
it was a cape.
Right.
I was born in a bedroom on the second floor.
Yeah. No, I was born in Providence, and I was raised in Barrington.
There you
The
go.
whole school system.
But when you said that, I said, oh, maybe he's like me.
No. No. Where your crib is the third drawer of the dresser
Yeah,
for the
something
first
like
couple.
that.
Of
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I can blame everything on.
No, good. Yeah.
Right?
Yes, you can.
Something, right?
Yes.
That I
you
was
can.
born in a house instead of
Absolutely.
with just me and my mother there. Nobody
Yeah.
was there. My grandmother ran out to go get help. And I decided I'm coming out anyway. How do you like that? So how many categories you got in this?
449 winners.
How many?
449.
449.
We have people who get that magazine and they use it as sort of their Wikipedia guide for Rhode Island stuff. So they'll keep it in their house. Let's say you have friends come in from New Jersey.
Right.
What do you guys want to do? Oh, well, we don't know. What do you have to do?
There you
to
go.
Get in the magazine.
There you go.
And because there are attractions, it's broken down in categories.
Yep.
So there's food, there's
Entertainment.
entertainment. Yeah. There's wellness.
Yep.
So new yoga studios and things of that nature. So there's a full array of things that the readers vote on and that our editors pick. So when you combine them both, this year it ended up being 449. It's always somewhere between 300 and 400. This year, because of new categories like social influencers, podcasters, best TikTok video, because there's been an explosion of all that stuff. There's a good example of where we added stuff back in so that we can have people get involved and they got a lot of votes and they're very excited to get their awards. And then the true badge for a small business, and this is all small business.
Oh, you see it on the wall in their business. You
That's
see
it. It's the
all
plaque.
right, that's the answer right there.
It is a validation that they are the best. This year, and if they have prior years, they have, you're familiar with Flo's Clam Shack?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so Flo's has I'm told, I haven't been there.
And the annex?
They have one in Naples, Florida.
Yes, they do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm told if you walk into Naples, Florida, all you will see is a full wall of Best of Rhode Island plaques.
No kidding.
So they have them all up here, they have them all down there. A lot of the restaurants will use those as a badge of honor. We allow them to use the logo if they're a bona fide winner. We protect that like you wouldn't believe because it's federally trademarked.
So if somebody's fake, bogus, puts a bogus one
Well, the best, when you have 449, you have no idea who's going to hang up a banner.
Yeah, but
who's
somebody
gonna
could
put it
call
on.
you and say, this guy's
Yeah,
promoting this.
and that happens all the time. I mean, they will be, after this month, they'll be posted on the website. So there'll be a full database there that people can go to. So
they can check it out.
It'll
they can
be
verify.
after we post. We always post the contents of the magazine on the website. We just don't post it the first week, all of the content.
Right.
Because it just financially doesn't make sense for any print
You wouldn't
publication.
buy the magazine.
Correct. And you have to pay people to put the magazine together. You have to pay for the magazine.
And the pictures, they cost a lot of money, those pages.
Well, yeah, because what happened is post-pandemic, paper prices went through the roof, postage prices went through the roof.
Yep.
And actually,
and they just went up again, didn't they, postage?
Yeah. No. Guess why paper prices went up during the pandemic? What did we all do during the pandemic?
Buy up all the toilet paper and the
Amazon.
Oh.
So what happened was
cardboard, yeah, and paper.
Most of the major paper mills in the country converted to corrugated cardboard.
Oh, there you go.
So they weren't
using
producing
up the paper.
Because Amazon had and Walmart and all the other places we were all shopping from, myself included.
Target, yeah.
They all needed more corrugated. They weren't selling as much of this coated stock because nobody was producing catalogs. Magazines were smaller because there wasn't a lot of business out there. And so the mills that were producing this converted to corrugated.
Corrugated.
So you couldn't get this paper. Then the price went through the roof.
Wow.
Then postage went up. So it's an interesting business. I graduated from URI with a journalism degree.
Right.
I spend more time as an accountant in management, and I write one small thing every month. But beyond that, my job is really running the business and figuring out things like rent and healthcare and things of that nature.
Sure. So during the pandemic, things slowed down for you, or they stopped?
Oh, absolutely they did. And we had just moved to, on March 13th, 2020, which was the day that everyone said the pandemic hit. We moved into new offices in Pawtucket.
Oh, in Pawtucket?
On that day.
Where in Pawtucket?
On Middle Spring Avenue, near Lorraine, it's Lorraine Mills. It's near Lorraine Fabrics, towards the end of Middle Spring Avenue.
The Lorraine, Pawtucket.
The Lorraine Diner is there.
I was there 2 days ago.
Okay, we're in that building.
Oh, no kidding.
So we moved in during the pandemic. So here we are, all new offices, all new decorated, all new furniture. Everybody comes in, everybody goes home. And they were home for, I don't know, 4 or 6 months. I mean, we had people in and out of the office, but it wasn't. We had pictures on the wall, pictures on the floor for 3 or 4 months before, because there's just nobody there. And
I was talking about that the other day when I was there. I said, I'm surprised Lorraine survived, because they just started that business over there.
They had just moved it. The diner had just been, I went to the opening.
Where did they get that diner from?
They found it in a field in Connecticut. I'm not sure where. It's a 1947 vintage diner. It is, I think there are only 11 left in the country.
Wow.
And the owner of the building found it. He had it shipped from Connecticut to where it is. And then what they physically did is they took the diner and they built a foundation, of course, put it into the building.
Right.
And as you know, if you've been there, there's a whole back room.
Yes,
so
exactly.
It's a diner with a capacity of 120.
But you know what's shocking about that diner? I was in the restaurant business.
Right.
I used to own where 10 Rock is.
Yeah, sure, right.
I used to own it. I put the liquor license in there.
Mm-hmm.
When I bought it, it was a breakfast place. That's all. It was called Sampson's Diner.
Really?
There was Sampson's Diner on Middle Spring Avenue and Sampson's Diner one was an N and the other was an M.
Okay.
On Main Street,
right.
on Main and West Avenue. I owned that when it was a diner. And I got a liquor license and I turned it into Venturini's Pub.
Oh.
Restaurant and pub. It was an Italian restaurant for several years. And then I sold it to this Irish family, Irish couple, and he got very sick, unfortunately, and died. Caught Lou Gehrig's disease. He was dead. Poor guy, like 3 or 4 years, he was all done. And then they sold it, and it got sold again. And this guy's really done a nice job with it. They really fixed it up nice.
They brought in, I know they brought in marble from the quarries in Tennessee. They refurbished the interior diner so it meets the specifications. You've been in it, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Meets the specifications of the original diner. And then, as I say, they have this whole back room. So that is right down the hall from our offices. We call it the cafeteria. We're there all the time.
Really? Yeah?
Yeah, we're there all the time. It's a nice place. It's great food. The plan was when they opened, right at the pandemic, they have a full liquor license. They have a bar in the back, which people get served at various points during the day if they want to. But the whole idea was to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Right.
And they haven't really been able to get the dinner business back.
But aren't there people, there was apartments in that building, isn't there?
There are over 200 units above us, yeah.
Right.
What they did is they converted, that was a manufacturing space.
Yeah, it was a rug place.
Colonial Mills.
Yes,
That's the name of it.
exactly.
They made the braided rugs.
Right.
And so that was, the offices are where we are, and then above them was where the manufacturing was.
Yeah.
So they'd make the rugs, they'd come down a chute, a truck would pull up, they'd take them out. There was also a showroom there. So when we looked at the space, Colonial was moving into East Providence, and they converted their office to our office. But upstairs where the manufacturing was, they created over 200 apartments. They're small, and the reason they created it was in anticipation of the train station opening up in Pawtucket.
Right.
So you have the direct line to Boston. So rewind in your career. If you're a young person, you want to work in Boston,
right,
but you can't afford to live in Boston,
right,
this was a great alternative.
Absolutely.
So that's how the whole thing came together. Of course, the pandemic hit. We got through it, thankfully, with all the programs that were put out by the SBA, and we did not lose people. We had to have a flexible schedule. Yeah, because it's the best we could did that, because it was a really scary time, because I had just used an extensive line of credit to build out the offices, move the business.
Wow.
The whole idea was...
You must have been shaking.
It was
oh, God.
A few sleepless nights. Yeah, let me put it that way.
Wow.
So and then to have everyone... And I actually bought all new furniture for the offices, because I thought our old furniture was furniture I had bought from the Providence Journal, because that's where I bought the company from. And it was old. And so I said, I'll buy new furniture, we'll be in new offices, we'll decorate it, we'll do all this stuff. March 13th, we move in, see ya. And it was, first year was a little, and like any media company these days, you have multiple forms of revenue. So for us, sure, we print a magazine, we have subscribers, people will buy them at Dave's Market or wherever.
Right. Then you got advertisers.
We have advertisers, which is an important part of our business.
Sure.
We have our digital, we have about 300,000 web views every month. We have our digital assets,
wow,
which has some money attached to it, but nothing like this. And then we had we do 10 different events a year. I mean, Best of Rhode Island is one, right, but we have a doctor's reception, a nurse's thing, our Bannister Awards, which is a DEI honorary program. And so all of that revenue and all the expense, but all the revenue also with sponsors went away, because we couldn't have events.
Exactly, absolutely.
So that's why
So wonder you survived.
Yeah.
Really, it's a wonder you survived.
I actually recall in the first couple of days, because I had worked at the Journal for about a decade before I did this, there are a lot of individuals who had moved on to other markets and other companies. Like there's one guy who was working down in the Tampa market, and I remember I was getting emails from people saying, "I know what's going on. I get the magazine. I hope you make it through it."
Wow, well, that's nice to hear, though. That's
but they realized that it was. I mean, we've got.
You were teetering on the edge there.
40 or 50 restaurants in here.
Yep.
Probably half of them were closed.
Exactly.
So, if not all of them.
I couldn't even imagine. I told you I owned a restaurant. I couldn't even imagine owning a restaurant during the pandemic. I felt for them. A lot
of good people went out of business. So we've gotten through that. We're actually, since then, business has been great. Like I said, the consolidation of the media in this market is mind-boggling, because everyone's getting bought and merged by, it's all out of state now.
It's terrible. I don't like that. I don't like seeing that.
And I worked for the Journal when it was privately held.
Right.
So, I mean, it was owned by the Metcalf family.
Right,
and,
right. Who were connected with Chafee, right? Weren't they?
Well, there was there's 4 or 5 families that were attached. But just coming from a privately held newspaper to what has happened in the industry now, you know, is it really is distressing, because everybody now are being measured by how many hits they get on their website.
Right.
Newspapers when I used to work at the Journal, we used to talk about we're going to do a 5-part series on corruption in the banking system, whatever it was. They don't do that anymore.
Right.
Because A, they don't have the space in the printed paper.
And it's not profitable.
And it's not profitable, and nobody wants to read it online because you can get it anywhere at any time, because we're in a 24/7 news cycle.
Right.
So that business has changed. All 3 of our television stations, great people, but they're owned by out-of-state corporations.
Yes, yeah.
So it is, I tell people, we are like David in the land of Goliath, because
Right.
we're trying to be nimble and entrepreneurial, and we try to stay really, really close to Rhode Island roots. We do.
And if you're owned by a out-of-state company, you're not going to have that.
You don't, because you don't control your own agenda.
Right, right.
You know, how many times do the CEOs, you know, they'll cut people because it's, we have to protect shareholder value. Well, what about the people who are reading the publication?
Exactly. The people you're affecting.
Right. I mean, you know, we're not expensive. Somebody spends $20, they get 12 issues a year. They're still expecting something of some value.
Right.
You know, otherwise they can, you know, donate it to a great charity. So it's staying close and staying true, and you know, I mean, I say my team, and I'm blessed to have a really great editorial team. The whole organization, I have people who have worked there there's 6, 7 of us that have been there over 25 years.
Wow.
You know, when you've been around for 36 and you get 6 people, which is roughly a third of the staff has been there over 25 years, it says something about their commitment and what we get out of what we do.
And your commitment to them.
Yeah.
Whereas you wouldn't have that. They wouldn't have that if they were owned by
Let's just say that was tested.
Huh?
It was tested tested rather aggressively during the pandemic. That was very, very tough, because you're just trying to figure out, how am I going to pay the bills? You know,
and pay everybody.
And how am I going to print 50,000 copies of the magazine, because that's what we're printing each and every month.
Really?
And put them in the mail. Yeah, we have
50,000?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're audited circulation is about, well, right now, because we're still not back in hotels after the pandemic, because they took everything out of hotels, but we're probably between 35 and 40,000, which is about where we're at. But you always print for newsstand as well, because we're on sale in 70 locations throughout the state.
Right.
So you're printing, you know, 50,000 magazines, 40,000 magazines probably is more accurate. But like, we do a summer guide every year that was been out, it's been all over the state. We print almost 100,000 copies of that, and that's handed out for free, and that's based on advertising. But because we have such an influx of out-of-state visitors during the summertime, and all the Bob Venturinis who have their own little businesses or their cafes, they want to get all those people into their places.
That's right.
So the summer guide is as we put it in Durkin rental cottages. We put it in Clements markets and other markets down in the South County area.
Clements
and it's
markets
all free.
down in Portsmouth, right?
Yeah, and it's all where people, you know, will visit, the influx of folks who come in from Connecticut. So we do that as well, and I have to tell you that flies. I mean, every year we're thinking, should we print more? Well, can you print more if paper prices are going up? And you know, that's the nature of what my job is just being cheap bean counter.
You want to take a shot or not take a shot?
Yeah, and you never know. You never know. I mean, you look at what's happening today in economic news, where you hear, is there a recession? Is there not a recession?
Right.
Is credit going to dry up, or is credit not going to dry up? Because that all makes a difference to someone like you, who may be running a business and need that in order to pay your folks and pay for food. It also affects the consumers, because if John and Mary Smith want to buy a new car and interest rates are through the roof, they're not going to buy it.
Car.
And you know what? The place they were going to buy it from is not going to buy an ad in my magazine. So, I mean, it is that whole being aware of everything that's going on. and you know, the other thing we've done over the years with the magazine is we've tried to get what I call civic journalism. It's not just all light and fluffy, you know, let's see what Bob Venturini is having at his grill today, you know, that kind of thing. We had a story in July about a relative of the Providence police chief who had some issues with the law enforcement, but the whole story was about, here they were both coming from a country. They had two paths going through the United States.
One goes legal, the other one goes illegal.
One is an exceptional public servant, and the other one is now incarcerated because he just.
That's not exactly uncommon, by the way.
No, it's not uncommon, but that's the kind of story that we write about because you're not going to see that on the 6 o'clock news or the 7 o'clock news. You're not going to see that in the newspaper.
Well, that's why the reason I say that it's not very common. That's why it's something readable because people can relate to it.
And you know, it is something that needs to be told in more than just a soundbite. Unfortunately, that's what we do. And it is something that we're mindful of, but to tell you the truth, well, first off, it's no secret that we have a lot of subscribers for the magazine, have been around for many years, who are the baby boomers. And baby boomers, I saw a statistic, or heard a statistic the other day that they control 55% of the consumer spending in the United States right now.
Right, so baby boomers still?
Yeah.
Really?
Because they have the discretionary funds.
Oh, they absolutely do.
Right.
But you would think of these younger crowd, they just blow money with their credit cards.
Well, they blow money, but they don't have the amount of money, and they, you know, I mean, I was having a discussion with somebody at my physical therapist yesterday morning, and we're saying, how does a young person buy a house these days? When you
it's
get
impossible. I talked to a young couple across the street from me just yesterday about that very thing. And they were asking me, how can we buy a house? Not very easily right now.
And of course, what's happening, again, just talking about the economics of the state, a lot of the folks who are older, who may have a home, are not going to sell it and are not going to move because either their house is paid for, or they have a great interest rate,
mortgage rate,
or they can't find something else.
Right, right. Oh, you're exactly right. Yeah, I'm selling a house right now, and fortunately, it's not the house I live in; it's another house I have.
Right.
But if I was to sell my house and look for another place, the price of anything is outrageous.
So with us, that's why we, being a state magazine, being Rhode Island's magazine, we try and have to react to all of those things that affect the business climate.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
You know, and we have a lot of realtors in the magazine that sell luxury homes, and believe it or not, there are a lot of luxury homes that are sold in Rhode Island. You hear about them all the time.
But they're sold to out-of-staters.
Yeah, sold to out-of-staters.
Well,
I think the year after the pandemic, it was like 60% of sales over $1 million were out of state.
Yep. Usually Connecticut or New York.
Well, because they can work remotely and they want to move away from the urban areas.
Right, right.
So
even Jay Leno has a house in Rhode Island, and Judge Judy has a place in Rhode Island.
Judge Judy, Jay Leno, yeah, they're all taking advantage of the lifestyle that we have here, and I think that's the nice part about what we get to do. We have such a beautiful state.
We do.
I love this place. When I go to conferences with publishers from all over the country, it's funny. We'll be talking about our best of event that we just had, and I'll say to the publisher of 5280, who's is the Denver magazine, I say, yeah, we had our event. It was great. We had the mayor of the capital city there. The governor came, said a few words, and they'll say, wait a minute. You had the governor and the mayor of your capital city at your event? Because they're lucky if they see them.
They're lucky if they get a councilman.
and I say, yeah, we see them like 2 or 3 times a week or a month, and you know, they're very accessible, and yeah, we do that all the time. So people don't realize the little microcosm that we have here, which makes it such a special place.
Exactly.
You know, so I mean, I had opportunities early on in my career to move out of Rhode Island and do other things, and pretty exciting things, and I like it here.
Well, I tell people all the time, I've been all over the world. I've traveled to a lot of places. and a lot of states. I've been to almost every state in the United States. To me, we have the best climate of the entire country. We don't have, just had an earthquake in California this morning, right? They get floods, they get fires. Mudslides. They get all that kind of stuff. You go to the central part of the country, they get the tornadoes. You go down south, they get all the floods. We had a flood in 2010, and that was a 100-year flood.
Right.
We don't get stuff like that. We get, well, we just had a hot time there, but 90 degrees. My nephew's in Texas. 110 is the staple.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the norm in the summertime.
They live from air conditioning to air conditioning.
Yeah, I said, he wants me to come visit. I said, when it cools down, I'll come visit. I said, what do you do all day? He said, oh, we go out early in the morning. You go out at 6 o'clock in the morning, and you go in the house by 10, and you stay in the house till 7 at night.
I have a younger brother who lives in San Antonio. In fact, I'm going to visit him.
My nephew lives in Austin.
October, but I'm going in October.
October, yeah.
Because I don't want to deal with what it's like there in the summertime. Yeah,
exactly.
And you're right. The climate's great. The coastline is great. When you say you have 485 miles of coastline,
right,
and you talk about all the beaches that we have
some of the most beautiful beaches on the East Coast, the Northeast anyway. People
do not realize what a benefit that is. You know, you can go. I mean, I've been to other places like Annapolis, Maryland, which is beautiful.
Yes. Chesapeake Bay.
And it's, Chesapeake Bay. It's similar to Narragansett Bay. But there aren't a lot of places that are like that have the kind of moderate seasons that we have. I mean, we have 4 seasons, but so far, you know, we haven't seen the winters like the blizzard of '78.
We don't see them.
It's moderated, and
Ever since, you know what happened? You know what stopped them?
What?
I bought a big snowblower.
You did? Ah, I did too.
4 years ago, and since we've had that, I've had one good snowstorm.
I have
5 years. 5 years.
I have a snowblower that's like 25 years old, and I use it. It's an old warhorse, and every year I send it to this place that has it tuned up.
Right.
You know, every other year.
Yep.
So when I send it to be tuned up, I know that we're going to have no snow that winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bought it because we were expecting a huge snowstorm about 5 years ago, and we got nothing.
Yeah.
We got nothing. By the way, all you have to do is take the gas out of it.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Because that's the problem, because the gas has 10 or 15% corn in it, and that's what clogs up the carburetors.
Right.
And if you drain it, and you usually don't have to do any service to it, especially because we don't have a lot of snow.
So that'll give me more time to go out and get milk and bread.
Well, you got a point there.
That's what it's such a quirky state. That's what I love this place for that. You know, I mean, sometimes you say, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. But it's Rhode Island, you know, and and actually we get we have a lot of readers and subscribers from Southeastern Mass and from Connecticut in the Mystic area, because they have more affinity
to Rhode Island,
because when they go to a Broadway show, they go to PPAC. Right. When they dine out at restaurants, they go to Providence.
Sure.
And the people up in Franklin, Mass, and the Attleboroughs, they're coming here. So having a magazine that talks about life here and the attractions here
is beneficial
to them, as opposed to subscribing to Boston Magazine, which is a great magazine, but
they're not going to Boston.
It's dealing with another whole market. Yeah,
they're not going to Boston.
No, they're not going to Boston.
It's too noisy, too crowded, too hot to park, too expensive to park.
Yes. So that's kind of what our secret. And I think the reason the magazine does so well is because everybody knows everybody. You know, you go to our society pages, and people, I've watched people. I must look like a stalker. But I'll be in a waiting room, I'm watching people say, what are they reading?
Right.
They go immediately to the society page, the fundraisers, and they want to say,
who's
Bob?
Yeah.
Who's Bob with? Who's that?
Yeah.
And the first thing they do is they send a text, and they're saying, hey, I saw your picture in Rhode Island.
Or they take a picture of the picture.
Take a picture
on their phone.
It happens all the time.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
So, and we have also benefited from the fact that things that used to be the staple of the old Providence Journal, society pages, wedding pages, we have a bridal magazine, movie reviews and theater reviews, which we do online. they don't exist anywhere else anymore. So we've tried our best to kind of jump in.
To fill that void.
Yeah, to fill that void. I mean, you have, in the food category, you've got an excellent food editor at the Journal, Gail Ciampa, who's been there forever. And she does a great job, but she only has so much resources, so we're able to supplement as well.
Sure.
Yeah, so it's a crazy world. Everyone says, who's your competition? I say everybody. And everybody. It could be, an Hour with Bob podcast. I was watching the prior show. You said you're thinking about a podcast. Well, you're going to be competition for eyes because you want people, or ears, because you want people to listen to your podcast.
Yeah.
Your television show. Somebody else decides they're going to do TikTok videos and sell sponsors to people that they're influencers for. I mean, that's the world that we're in now.
Right.
It's not, it's everyone competes with everybody. And because of the size of the market, there's not a lot of big national business here. It's all
it's all local stuff.
Local
stuff. The local pizza place or
Correct.
The local restaurant.
Right. So that's, primarily what happens. Every once in a while we get lucky. We have some world-class events. You look at the, the folk festival, the jazz festival, what happens at the Tennis Hall of Fame. There are things, Waterfire, I can go to any city in this country and talk to a magazine publisher, and they'll say to me, what about that firewater thing? What's going on? Yeah, firewater thing. What is that? Can we get that?
He's coming on here in a couple weeks.
Oh, Barnaby is. Yeah. Oh, great. Now, that was his building we had the party at. So,
yeah.
And they'll ask about that. So, and then you think about the institutions of higher learning, it's not just Brown and RISD, but you've got a great school in Rhode Island College. You get CCRI, has national acclaim. And,
Roger Williams,
Johnson and Wales. And for me, it's the University of Rhode Island. I'm a very proud Ram, and they're doing some great things down there with not only research, but the whole blue economy. So, why wouldn't I want to do this? People say, well, when are you going to retire? When are you going to? I like what I do.
There's no sense you don't retire from something you like to do.
No.
You retire from work. If work is something you have to do and it takes up your day, then okay, you retire from that. But I've seen too many people my age that retire and they're gone in a year or two.
Yeah, and you know what? If I were ever to move on to something else, and there's no intention or anything like that, I'd want to make sure that the magazine still had its local roots.
Right.
Still had all
stayed
the
in the right hands, you mean?
If somebody from a not-for-profit can pick up the phone and call me and say, can you help me? I want somebody answering the phone as I would and saying yes.
Right.
If you know what I mean.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I started this show 32 years ago. I'm in my 33rd year right now.
Wow.
May 29th I completed.
So it was shortly after the magazine started, right?
May 29th, 1992, I started this. Okay. And I started this, people said, why'd you start a TV show you don't get paid to do? I said, because I started this to promote, I used, from traveling all the time and seeing different places, and it used to bother me when somebody would say to me, where are you from? I said, Rhode Island. Oh, Long Island. I go, no, I'm from Rhode Island. What's that? I thought it was part of New York. That used to bother me, and it still does actually bother me when people say that. So I said, I wanted to promote Rhode Island to people that outside Rhode Island, because this show used to air in 18 Massachusetts communities too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and after Cox took over the bulk of the state, I lost all those communities.
Okay.
In fact, remember Christine Johnson was on Channel 12?
Sure, absolutely.
You know where she works now, don't you?
I do not.
She is the #1, I think she's still #1 TV anchor on WCBS in New York City.
Is she? Oh, I have heard about that. That's like Kristen Welker, who's now...
Yes.
Who was on ABC6, who's now...
NBC. Now she's with NBC.
Yeah, Meet the Press.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So a lot of good people come out of this market from the media side.
That's right. That's right.
And on the print side, there is Pulitzer Prize winning columnist for the New York Times, Dan Barry, guys who work for the Washington Post. I mean, they were part of that golden age of newspapering that doesn't exist anymore. There's still some great people at the Providence Journal and the Boston Globe.
Right.
But that was an era where you could, you know, it was privately held, and if you wanted to do a big, expensive investigative piece, the
Yes.
editor went to the publisher and
Yep.
said, I need your support financially and otherwise, and the publisher, being stalwart of the community, would say, yeah, well, let's do that.
Let's do it, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it affected him, because he was from the community.
Because they were looking to the newspaper as the entity to be the watchdog and to give them guidance, okay? Think about how many times in the years past when you'd see an editorial page, you'd go to an editorial page because you're looking for guidance. Who am I going to vote for? Who am I not
Right,
going to vote
right,
for?
right.
Do I want to vote for this bond issue? Do I want to? They don't have editorial pages anymore because it's too expensive. You know, so we don't either, to, you know, to say the truth, because it's not appropriate for us, but we try to fill the void other ways.
Right. Right.
You know, and give some exposure to the good things, and sometimes it's the not so good things. I mean, we've written stories over the years. We wrote a story, I told you I grew up in Barrington. We wrote a story a number of years ago about the fact that there was a period of time, and I don't believe it's the case, but because there was an affluent community, they had a real problem with underage drinking.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's called the dry town, right?
It used to be the dry town, and because it was the dry town, the abundance of
Youngsters,
yes, and so there was underage, and so there was a number of incidents, accidents, and DUIs,
boat accidents, car accidents.
that whole era, and so we wrote a story about that. Did we make a lot of friends in Barrington when we
I'll
wrote
bet
that
you
stuff?
didn't.
No, we didn't, and it was
Especially
tough for
you
me,
living in Barrington.
I wasn't born there, but I grew up there.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, you do stuff like that, and you know, we wrote a story about what is it like to be a year-round resident on Block Island. Well, I got to tell you, right now you'll have a hell of a time out there. In December, it's quite quiet, and there's not a lot to do.
Right.
And sometimes there's issues of substance abuse and
Sure.
among the younger folks, and I mean, we wrote that story, and people get angry, but you gotta, it happens. It's what, you write a story like that so you can motivate people to come up with a solution.
Wake them up.
Come up with a solution. You know,
Right,
it's a problem.
right.
You want to
Because
fix
it's
it?
more
fix
than December out there. I mean, I wouldn't want to live there January or February either.
well, that's what I'm saying. It was just off-season.
Yeah.
What is it like? You know, what is it like when all the tourists go away and a lot of the businesses which are seasonal have to close up? I mean, you know, Block Island's another jewel that we have to take care of.
But, and I thought, what I thought you were going to say is it's tough getting a place there because everybody from New York and Connecticut are over there.
I'm the publisher of St. Louis Magazine, who is a Rhode Island native, who ended up having a number of successful business ventures. He now owns St. Louis. He lives in St. Louis, you know, 9 months out of the year, but he's built
Block Island, 3 months?
A beautiful home on Block Island, and that's where he spends his summers. And I just had lunch with him a couple of weeks ago, and he's loving it. He says it's quiet. He says, I'm here. I can see all my friends. I think he went to Moses Brown, so he has classmates and
Sure.
and all that kind of stuff. And he loves Rhode Island. I mean, he just loves being a native, and he's got business interests in St. Louis, so he's, you know, living between two states. So, but that's what happens. You see people come to our state and they discover the quality of life. I mean, Bishop Henning, who is just promoted
moved up to Boston.
Boston.
Just promoted to Archbishop, right?
Okay, so when he gave his speech about being honored to be this, he said, but I love Rhode Island. I've only been there for 2 years, under 2 years.
Right.
I love the people. I love the caring. I love the connectivity. I love the fact that I can go anywhere to a festival or to a parish church, anywhere, and people accept me, they know me, they embrace me. I mean, that's whether you're a Catholic or whether you're, you know, an atheist,
right.
It still is the type of thing that happens here. So I kind of hope that makes it different for us. I mean, do we always get it right? No. But does anybody always get it right? No. So,
When I was with the governor, when he was lieutenant governor, we did the 39 community thing.
oh, you did? Yeah.
Yeah, we did the 39 communities with the 39 farms, which ended up being 62 farms because we couldn't believe how many farms there are in the state of Rhode Island. We figured we'd do a farm in all the 39 communities, all the 39 cities and towns. But as we were going along, other places, like Western Cranston, said, whoa, why don't you come to our farm too? So we end up with maybe 3 farms in that town, and then 2 farms in Hope Valley, and all different places all around the state. It was amazing how many farms. Then after we finished that, we did the manufacturers, and I couldn't believe. I was shocked. There are 3 robot manufacturers in the state of Rhode Island. 3.
Really?
3 companies that manufacture robots in the state of Rhode Island. Yeah. I was sitting with him, we're talking to the guy, and all of a sudden, I feel something on my shoulder. I look over. It's the hand of a robot. The guy was playing with it, just toying with me a little bit. But it was amazing, these things.
So 5 years from now, is there going to be a robot sitting in that chair doing these
Probably, because I won't be. I don't know if I can handle this. Well, no, not handle this. I don't.
Actually, the connectivity. When he was treasurer, Seth Magaziner started something where he would get this issue and he'd have a citation made. And he would go around. So one day he'd do Hope Street. So everybody who won a Best of Rhode Island award, he'd go in unannounced. They didn't make appointments. Right. And he'd say, hey, Bob, congratulations, you're Best of winner. I have a citation from the treasurer's office. He's doing that now as a congressperson.
It's a good move, actually.
Because he got such positive bounce from it.
Absolutely.
And because they're always calling us the one I get the names of the winners. But that's Rhode Island. You don't see that in Chicago. You're not going to find that out in other parts of the Midwest. So I like to say that that's what makes this place special. But then I sound like a cliched booster of the state, and I am.
When you mentioned about doctors, you said you have these events for different groups.
Yeah.
Now, is that how you establish who's the best doctor?
No, the doctors, they're all done different ways, but top doctors, we've been doing it for, I don't know how many years. We've been doing an event for 15 years. So what happens is we send a survey out to all of the doctors in the state, MDs, DOs, in
every category of doctor?
Every category. There's 2 categories that are not MDs that we're considering adding. I believe it's podiatry and something else, but that's being determined. But we'll send it out to every doctor. And so let's say you were a heart surgeon.
Yep.
Okay, you get the survey and it said, if you or a member of your family
had to be operated by somebody else?
Somebody else, like if you needed a pediatrician, if you needed an orthoped, if you needed cosmetic surgery, I'm making it up, who would you vote for as the best in the category?
Right.
So based
in other words, you can't vote for yourself.
Right, and doctors vote for doctors. So those who win are voted by their peers as the best doctors in the state.
Sure.
So for the past 15 years, we've been holding a top doctors celebration where we invite all the doctors to come in to a party. It's a reception with a band and
how many doctors show up?
We've had during the pandemic, it was in the 120, but we usually have around, I think last year we had, between doctors and guests, close to 300, 400 people.
Wow.
We hold it at the Audi showroom in Warwick. We've been there for 15 years. And they don't sell cars. There's no salespeople on the floor. They just want to be the host.
That's right on Route 2 you're talking about?
Yeah, the Inskip facility.
Right.
And the doctors all get invited. If they come to the party, they get their top doctor's plaque. We have a photo wall. But this is, again, a Rhode Island thing. So in talking to the doctors, when they started coming, I was amazed because I thought, gosh, you're inviting me to come to an event at a car showroom.
Yeah, you figured you're going to hustle me into a car. That's what I would think.
Right, and they don't. And they haven't in 15 years. But
it sounds like that. If I'm a doctor, I'm thinking that way.
But they came, and they realized that that's not the case. That's why it's been going for 15 years.
Right.
But when I asked them, I said, why is this? Because you see the same faces, and they come, and they're excited, and they're appreciative. And I say, well, why is this so important to you? You know, it's great for us. And they say, well, you know, when the pharmaceutical industry changed all their rules and regulations, you know, if you recall, there used to be stories about the lavish wine dinners
Sure.
and golf outings.
Tournaments, and I mean golf junkets.
Junkets and all that kind of stuff. And they would invite, you know, the top 10 doctors who were using their product. Well, they shut all that stuff down. So all of those events, those social events where these doctors would see each other, they're gone. So we kind of stepped into the void at the right time. And they all come, and it's you see all the primary docs together, because there's more than one in each category. You see all the people who are in cardiac, you know, care.
Sure. All the neurosurgeons.
All the and then you see people
they're usually
talking.
the wacky guys, the neurosurgeons.
I'm not going to make any comment. Anybody, if there's any neurosurgeon watching, that's him.
I have to go to see a neurosurgeon.
No, actually, and they you see new faces, and you know, I ran into an anesthesiologist at this year's event, which was in May, and she came up to me and she said, "Hi, do you remember me?" And I said, "I'm sorry, I don't." She said, "I went to school with your daughter, Jessica."
No kidding.
Yeah, because my daughter went to Boston College, and she's very successful, and she's a top doctor, this young woman. So, you know,
nice.
It's the circle of life continues.
All right, listen, we're just about out of time. I got to ask you this question. Why did we do this?
Why do we do this?
Now, why did you do the cover like this?
Because Cox wants to pay us money to put their ad on the cover of the magazine. And you don't put an ad on the cover. So there's several ways you can do it, okay?
Yeah.
So this gives Cox Communication, which wants to be the #1 communications company for small businesses, a way of congratulating all of the small business winners in Rhode Island and saying to them,
Kind of be on the cover. You're on the cover.
and they get the database. They know all the winners.
Right.
They're able to go out and you know, Bob's Cocktail Bar, they're going to call up and say, "What do you have for internet services?" It's a very smart move on their part, and this gives them a very prominent way of doing it. We don't do this on every issue because some people find it annoying, not with this issue, and B, it gets very expensive because it costs a lot more to mail this magazine, because I have to put it, because of the postal system, I have to put it in a plastic
In an
bag.
envelope or some
Plastic
kind
bag,
of
clear
cover
plastic
it.
bag.
You have
yeah.
to cover it. Otherwise,
because
it's going to
it has
rip out.
what we call a French door.
Yeah.
And that's
great job.
right. So
Well,
that's why we do
John,
it.
thank you for you've done an hour with Bob. You did
I
the whole
made it.
hour. You
It's
did
the
an
full-
hour with
It's
Bob.
the full Rhode Island. It's
You made it.
unbelievable.
You made it. I made it because I
Yeah.
got you here.
Yeah, no, you did, and you've asked me in the past, and I haven't been able to do it. So I appreciate you being persistent. This time when you reached out, I said, "You know what? I've got to do this.
There you
And
go.
I want
Thank
to
you.
do this."
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming, John.
Okay.
Thank you. And folks, thank you for spending an hour with Bob and John. Until next time, see you.